I think the thumbnail to this video is going to be called "How to Manipulate a Championship" or something like that, because we all know that this one's being manipulated again. Now, are they trying to ensure that Max Verstappen gets a fifth consecutive championship? Could well be the case. Are they more concerned about the championship being decided on the last Grand Prix of the season? Well, it's evident that that is what's going to happen. They've made it that way. They've manufactured it so that the championship is going to go down to the last Grand Prix of the season. And obviously the last time they did that, at Abu Dhabi 2021, what it resulted in was the sport that season, the value of the sport increased over the course of that season by $4.8 billion due to the extra interest that was generated by the spectacle, the show. So that is a primary factor in why it is all those involved in the show are just complicit with the manufacturing of what should be a sport. It's sold to us as a sport, and it's not. It's choreographed, it is manipulated, and it is effectively just like wrestling. All right, it's not an authentic sport. They're more interested in making money. It's a global marketing roadshow. They go around the world. They've got 24 events or however many Grand Prix they run. It's the glitz and the glamour, the roadshow that arrives, aspirational, you know, expensive brands. Everybody likes to be seen at the Grand Prix, with the rich and famous. And basically that they make huge amount of money out of it, and they'll do what they need to do to continue making huge amount of money by doing it. Mercedes-Benz, the team that won 8 consecutive constructors championships, they sold a third of the team to Jim Radcliffe of Ineos in 2022 for 200 million, apparently 200 million pounds. So a third of the team for 200 million. So on that figure, you'd say that the whole team would be valued at 600 million then. They've won nothing since, and yet the team is now valued at 4.6 billion pounds. What's caused that increase? It's not on the track success, is it? Because they've gone backwards on the track. So what's increased the value of the team? Well, that's because of the show. The show has increased in value and making all of the teams increase in value. That's just one example. The same as not to the same magnitude, but the same thing has happened to each and every one of them teams, and that's why every one of them teams is just happy to be there, complicit. They'll play their part in the show. They'll perform their role. The show's got its heroes, it's got its villains, and they'll keep the smooth brains entertained. Now, I'll do another video where I get into the intricacies of what actually took place in the Grand Prix, but let's just start by going through what this is about with the tyre limit, because we should have realised the bullshit. Well, many of us did. That we were fed the narrative of the slow puncture narrative and the sharp gravel narrative. But we've got this imposed 25 lap tyre limit for drivers. Now, it's where you've got to look at this as to when they're doing it. So Pirelli has effectively enforced a 2-stop minimum rule at next week's Formula One Grand Prix. Now, the rules and regulations are it's 1 stop. So we've got a change to the regulation on the basis of a so-called safety concern. You can dress it up that way. I'm all for safety concerns, and I would much rather err on the side of caution when it comes to safety. This very much feels a contrivance, and I'll show you why. So, after stating drivers can use one set of tyres for a maximum of 25 laps, why would you make the rule that you can only use a set of tyres for a maximum of 25 laps? So we'll give their reasons in a minute, but You've got 3 compounds of tyre. You'll have soft, medium and hard. The longevity of each of those sets of tyres is different. Okay, what we are led to believe, we don't have first-hand experience of these tyres, but what we're led to believe is the soft compound of tyre is the grippiest tyre, but it is the least durable tyre. So therefore, you've only got a certain number of laps before the tyre performance drops off significantly. The medium compound tyre is obviously the middle of in terms of longevity and middle in terms of ultimate performance. The hard compound tyre being the tyre which is the most durable, but least grippy compared to the other two, but should last you some time. So why are you putting a uniform 25 laps when you've got 3 different compounds of tyre? Now surely if you've got 3 different compounds of rubber, then any deterioration of sidewall should be different as well. Surely you've not just got the same, everything's the same apart from just the rubber on the surface of the actual the bit that's in contact with the track. Surely the sidewalls would be of the same compound of rubber. You'd have thought, would you not? So this idea of uniformly just saying 25 laps, regardless of whether it's a hard compound tyre, a soft compound tyre or a medium, well, we know that the hard compound of tyre normally far outlasts anything else. So if you're imposing 25 laps maximum for hard compound tyre, well, surely you must have to say, well, sorry, if that's as much as the hard compound tyre is allowed to do, well, the medium's got to be less, and the soft would have to be less than that, surely. Just 25 each across the board, that doesn't make sense. And when things don't make sense, that's when you've got to start asking the questions and start realising there could be some bullshit going on here. All right? Now here's another dynamic. If there's a safety car, the laps that are spent behind the safety car, well, they're not laps that those tyres are doing at competitive racing speeds. Them laps are not then loading the tyres in the same way, causing the deterioration in the tyres in that same way. How do you factor that in? So, whilst you might say we're going to err on the side of caution and say a maximum of 25 laps, well, 25 laps at fully racing speed as opposed to 20 laps at racing speed and 5 laps behind the safety car, there's a big difference there. Another issue, again, that's not even been talked about is you start the race on a full fuel load, and let's say it's 100 kilograms of fuel when you start the race. And then you're lapping with 100 kilograms on board of fuel. Well, you put that through the corners, that's going to cause a lot of loading through those tyres. So you're going to have more loading on the tyres in the first half of the race when you've got maximum down to half fuel load, and then from the halfway point in the race, and I know it's not uniform in terms of you don't use exactly the same amount of fuel each lap because you're likely to use more towards the start of the race when the car's having to do more work because it's pulling a heavier car. But we'll say it's linear just for ease. Halfway then through to the end of the race, the actual wear on the tyres should be less, surely, because it's a lighter car and therefore the lateral loading of that car. You might be able to carry more speed and that might offset it. But there's more variables that have to be considered as opposed to simply saying 25 laps per set of tyres. Compound of tyre, as I've already said, soft, medium, hard. Those 3 sets of tyres should have different durations of what they're usable for. Time spent behind a safety car. Well, they shouldn't count towards your 25 laps. And the other thing is fuel load. At the start of the race, full load of fuel. End of the race, virtually no fuel. You can't tell me that the wear through a set of tyres in the first 25 laps is the same as the last 25 laps. They're going to be loaded differently because of the load of fuel. And yet we've got this rule here. And we're just going to go through what they then said. The Italian brand has taken the decision after a recurring theme of extreme tyre wear at the Lusail International Circuit on the 3 occasions it's hosted the race. In 2021, multiple drivers suffered from front left tyre failures due to the demands of the layout that encompasses a myriad of medium and high-speed corners. 2023 saw a similar issue caused by the surface of the track's curbs, which led to an 18-lap limit, leading to an effective 3-stop minimum. So these curbs, they've been ground down, they've been rectified, so that shouldn't be an issue. Pirelli has once again opted for a similar tactic for this year's 57-lap race, but has increased the limit due to the nomination of C1, C2 and C3 compounds. Now, you see, has increased the limit due to the nomination of C1, C2 and C3 compounds. I'll come to the actual documents showing you which tyre compounds were used at which event. 57-lap race. We know the mandatory requirement is one stop, that everybody's got to perform a pit stop in a race. You know, we're talking about now sustainability. Everybody, you've all got to be wary of your carbon footprint, otherwise it's your fault that the planet is being destroyed, okay? And we're all concerned, just as Formula One is, about sustainability, yeah? So we'll design tyres that will just wear out. And we're going to introduce it for 2026, a mandatory 2-stop. So that everybody has to use at least 3 sets of tyres every race. Yeah, that's called sustainability, everybody. Well, what it does, it sustains businesses. It means the business has still got to keep manufacturing more of their shit. That's the thing that it's sustaining. It's not sustaining the planet's resources. No, it's sustaining business profits. But don't you worry, little head, about that. That's not part of their narrative. So, 57-lap race. What you could do, if you've got the medium and the hard compound tyre as race tyres, well, surely you could say, well, 57-lap race. Surely we should be able to say you should get 32 laps out of a set of hard. Or maybe, 32 laps out of a set of hard. And then 25 laps out of a set of medium. So you can still do your one-stopper. If you're going to do that, if you're going to restrict the number of laps then that you can do on a set of tyres, why are you doing 25-25? Have you not looked at it and said, well, actually, the hard compound might be able to go to 35. The medium might be able to go to 30. And impose limits per tyre that way. But no, we have to spice it up towards the end of the season so that anything can happen. In a statement, Pirelli said, in Qatar, a limit will be introduced for the number of laps that each set of tyres can cover over the course of the whole race weekend. The decision, taken in agreement with the FIA and Formula One and discussed in regular meetings with the teams, is confirmed today by Pirelli through the usual technical document containing event-specific prescriptions sent out 2 weeks prior to each Grand Prix. These conditions, combined with the high lateral energy, has increased the structural fatigue of the construction. In order to reduce the number of pit stops, the teams had worked on tyre degradation management, limiting performance drop-off, which sometimes ran the risk of extending the stint beyond the useful life of the tyre. Really? Your job, Pirelli, is to manufacture tyres that are fit for purpose. Now, when you are doing your analysis of the tyres, when you've taken all of these tyres back in that have been used in a Grand Prix weekend. If you're detecting that there are problems with your tyres, then it's your responsibility to then address those problems and remedy them. Remedy them by constructing better tyres so that in the next year's event, when that event comes around, you can provide the tyres that are fit for purpose for that event. Not say, oh, actually, we're going to have to change the rules at this event because our tyres aren't good enough. Pretty piss poor that just 2 weeks before the event is now coming round again, oh, we're back at Qatar again. Oh, this is the one where we've got problems with the tyres. Oh, what should we do about it? No, it's too late now. Your job as the tyre supplier to Formula One is to make tyres that are fit for purpose. And they probably are, but this is all part of the narrative. A similar precautionary measure had already been introduced at the track in 2023, although that was for different problems which are now resolved. That year, repeatedly going over some curbs had led to micro lacerations in the tyre's side walls. Last year, the subsequent modifications to the pyramid curbs, along with the addition of strips of gravel around them, had avoided a repetition of this situation. The rule will also give F1 and the FIA a chance to see how effective the event will be from an entertainment perspective, with discussions a mandatory 2-stop minimum rumoured for 2026. So again, think of all the narratives we get. The tracks where we get, well, these cars are exceeding track limits, they're going off the track, or a driver has gone off the track to try and perform an overtake. And the narrative going, well, they wouldn't do that if there was a gravel trap there. What they should do is they should put a gravel trap there. They should put some gravel there. That would stop all that, wouldn't it? No, it doesn't. Because now, when you put gravel there, oh no, the gravel's too sharp. That could give you a slow puncture. Now, if you put gravel there, the tyres don't work. The tyres will only last 25 laps. How much bullshit do we get? How much bullshit do we always get with this shit show? So, let's just go through a few different tabs that I've got that are prepared for this. So, the 25 laps limit. And that was, again, and this is just the sort of search results you're going to get. And let's just clarify this. So why did the FIA impose a maximum of 25 laps per set of tyres? To ensure safety and prevent structural failures. This decision was made after an analysis of tyre wear data from the previous year's race. So when did you do that analysis of the data? Okay, surely you'd have done it in the immediate aftermath of that race. And what that then should have done is tell you, Pirelli, that your tyres aren't fit for purpose, and you should have then produced a tyre that was fit for purpose. Not go, oh yeah, our tyres are shit. What do we do? Oh, you're going to have to change your regulations. No, we're into a new season. You should have learnt from your failures and produced the right tyre, which revealed micro damage in several used tyres. Okay. After how many laps? What kind of driving had caused that? Which compound of tyre was it? The new rule aims to prevent teams from extending tyre stints beyond their recommended life. Their recommended life. Since when has it been a recommended life? When has it been a recommended life? What's the recommended life of a tyre? Okay. Oh, when the tread goes down to 1.6 millimeters and it becomes illegal. No, what's the recommended life? So I've got some tabs and we'll show you some what's going on. So this was 2023 Qatar Grand Prix. Now this was the one where they set the limit of, was it 16 laps did I read out per tyre? So that's why we've got a shitload of pit stops here. All right. Again, that was a manipulation that I don't think any of us were that bothered. We're just seeing all this shit happen constantly now, so this is why we're just analysing it more. This one, though, was last year's Grand Prix. So the 2024 Qatar Grand Prix. There we are. Max Verstappen, the leader, won that race. He went, what was that, about 34 laps on a set of mediums. We've got Charles Leclerc has done 34 laps on a set of mediums. They're all kind of doing that kind of distance. This hard compound tyre here, it says 20 at the end, but clearly the length of that bar is longer than, well, this one's saying 20 as well. So, and they're not the same. So that looks to be, if it's a 57 lap race, the length of that bar there, it looks to be about a 30 lap stint on the hard compounder tyre. It looks, looking where that ends there, down to there, about 27 laps on mediums for Kevin Magnussen here in position 9. About 27 laps on mediums and about 30 laps on the hard compounder tyre. So that's what they were doing last year. About 34 laps was the medium tyre, and you could get 30 out of a hard compound tyre. You'd expect to go longer. The drivers weren't using them because there probably was not. If the performance was there, they'd use them, wouldn't they? But it's not to say that the tyre wasn't capable of going longer. So that's the evidence there. Well, if you're concerned that your medium tyre was showing signs of wear or showing signs of potential failure, well, your medium tyre was going for 34 laps. Why have you told everybody, well, you can't use the hard tyre for any more than 25 laps? Surely, if you've got an issue with 30, why have you brought it back to 25? Sorry, 34 they could do. Why have you brought it back to 25 and not 30? What was Magnussen's tyre? What was Bottas's tyre? Were they the ones that were suffering the problems? Was it these tyres here that had done 34 laps? You see, you've got to analyse these things, and we'll never get any of this. Now, 2023 Qatar Grand Prix. Let's just go through the documents as to what's what. Which I don't want to do that on me. So, back in 2023, the compounds of tyres used were C1, C2 and C3. In their range of tyre compounds, they now do down to a C6, so super soft, whatever. But you've got C1 is the hardest compound of tyre that is used in Grand Prix racing, C2 and C3. So it's the hardest three compounds that they've used at Qatar. Okay, that's what they used in 2023. 2024, they've done the same. C1, C2 and C3 are the tyre compounds that they've used. Now note here, we've not got, in fact, let's go back to this one. Let's go back to this one. You've got tyre notes, general notes. I didn't see, can't see it there. We'll come to it. I didn't see any further documents relating to tyres on that season's. We'll have a look now. We'll look on the FIA. So if you go to the FIA website, and then you go to this sport thing here. So we're talking about a sport here. So we can't just call this entertainment because it's listed as a sport. World Championship, FIA Formula 1 World Championship. Okay, so it's clearly labelled as being a sport. And then you've got, you scroll down, Qatar Grand Prix official documents. Click onto that. And then if you go by season, if we just go back to 2023, and we'll go to the event Qatar. So let's just check these, make sure. Event note. Let's just have a look at event note Pirelli preview version 2. I didn't see that before, so let's just double check. It does say it there. Maximum number of laps permitted for the race on each single set include all tyre history 18 laps. Laps to the grid, formation laps, and laps following the checkered flag for the sprint and race will not be counted. For the used sets, effective lap number of laps considered from previous sessions will be the total amount reduced by 2 laps. For the sake of clarity, a document with remaining laps available for each set will be distributed to the teams. So back here, they were actually understanding that certain laps around there weren't actually causing a problem to the tyre, so therefore wouldn't be counted. So a lap to the grid, a formation lap, and laps following the checkered flag. But what about a lap behind the safety car? You know, like I said, manipulation. I want to just carry on going through these documents. So this one is the 2023, that's 2024. We're talking C1, C2, C3. Now, we're into 2025 and we're bringing up the Sao Paulo. So the Brazilian Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago, they used compounds C2. What's going on here? C2, C3 and C4. Okay. So bearing in mind the C2, the hard compounder tyre in Brazil, is the medium compounder tyre they used here. Right? The medium compound tyre in Brazil was the soft compounder tyre here in Qatar. So in Brazil, and let's go to this one here. So bearing in mind this is on effectively what is the medium compounder tyre today that they allowed 25 laps of. The lap is only 2.6 miles long. But in Brazil, Pierre Gasly, right, did 50 laps on a set of C3 tyres. Sorry, longest stint on one set of... Why does that say that in Azerbaijan? I've only just realised that. Pierre Gasly completed the longest sit on one set of tyres at the 2025 Brazilian Grand Prix, driving 300.150 kilometres, 50 laps, on a set of C3 tyres in Azerbaijan. So you've driven that at the Brazilian Grand Prix in Azerbaijan. The internet is incredible, isn't it? Okay, now. The prize for the longest stint on a single set of tyres goes to Pierre Gasly, who completed... This is from Pirelli themselves. Sorry, I'm just doing this on the fly. The Pirelli tyres used to cover the course of... Oh, fucking hell. The prize for the longest stint on a single set of tyres goes to Pierre Gasly, who completed 300.150 kilometres, 50 laps, in his Alpine in Baku on a set of C3s, designated as the hard at this Grand Prix. So the C3 is the soft compounder tyre here, right? It's a soft compounder tyre here, and yet it did 50 laps at Baku. Baku's a really long track. The soft compounder tyre in Qatar was designated the hard compounder tyre at Baku, and it did 300 kilometres, 50 laps. What about, okay, Charles Leclerc takes the honours for the longest distance travelled on a set of C2. 43 laps of Jeddah, which is 265 kilometres. George Russell travelled the furthest on a set of C4s, 256 kilometres, 77 laps in Monaco. Hulkenberg completed 242 57 laps of Zandvoort. Sonoda did 28 laps of the Singapore track, 141. Longest set on intermediates in Montreal. Oh, Inters. Okay. Got him mixed up when Inters meaning obviously intermediates in terms of wet weathers rather than the middle of the three slick compounds. So why have we not got the record for C1s? Maybe we don't have a record for C1s because drivers don't want to stay on them for that long because of the performance isn't so good. So Charles Leclerc takes the honours for the longest distance travelled on a set of C2s, completing 43 laps. Does that mean that they couldn't go any further, or would you just not want to go any further due to the performance of those tyres? So they'll go that far, 300 kilometres on a set of tyres. And if you do, we'll go along to again. Sorry that I'm just doing this on the fly here, but what I'd prepared in terms of what it just told me was bullshit. So I had to dig deeper. This bit here, I inquired on the search here who did the longest stint on one set of tyres at the 2025 Brazilian, and it said it's given me that, but it's not the Brazilian Grand Prix. It's the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So I can't give you what it was at Brazil. But what we can do is then go to Vegas. At Vegas, the tyres that were allocated were C3, C4 and C5. So the C3 tyre, the hard compounder tyre allocated for Vegas, was the soft compounder tyre here in Qatar. All right, but that was a designated hard compounder tyre there. So in Vegas, what did Antonelli do? Antonelli did 48 laps on that tyre. So what is the soft compounder tyre here in Qatar? On those tyres, Antonelli did 48 laps of Vegas. Now, in terms of distance, Vegas is 3.8 miles. And if we look in terms of kilometres, 6.2. 6.2 kilometres. And he's done, what did we say, 48 laps? Wrong one. 48 laps times 6.2. So that's going to be close to 300 kilometres, surely. 6 times 5. It's got to be close to 300 kilometres he's done it. Now here, it's 5.4 kilometres. So 5.5 lots of 25 is what? 5 lots of 25 is 125, and half of that is another 12 and a half. So you're talking about 140 kilometres. They've restricted a set of tyres at Qatar, whether it's soft, whether it's mediums, or whether it's hards, to 140 kilometres, essentially. They're saying you can only do 140 kilometres. And yet they know that at other racetracks, we've got records of these here, 300 kilometres. 265 here. So Gasly's 300. Leclerc's done 265. George Russell 256. 240. And then it's the on the intermediates here. Yuki Tsunoda did 28 of the Singapore track, equivalent of 141 kilometres. That doesn't make that much sense, to be honest. But anyway, or maybe it's just the way I'm reading it. So, we'll just move through to see what else I put up here. Or was that all I had loaded up for this one? I think that's mostly all. I think that was mainly it. The whole idea of making Qatar a two-stop mandatory race was clearly a tool for manipulation. Clearly a tool for manipulation. Clearly adds extra drama. As they've already acknowledged here, the rule will also give F1 and the FIA a chance to see how effective the event will be from an entertainment perspective, with discussions a mandatory two-stop minimum rumoured for 2026. Now, hopefully you've actually considered, and you might have already done so, but the things that I've talked about in this video. I'm sorry it's been a bit long-winded, and I'm sorry that, but you know that from me anyway. But I'm sorry that it's been a little bit more fragmented than normal. But clearly, imposing just a across-the-board uniform tyre limit across each of the three compounds doesn't make sense when we know that those compounds should have different lifespans. Not factoring in laps spent behind a safety car, that doesn't add up. Not factoring in the weight of the car when we're talking at the start of a Grand Prix and at the end of a Grand Prix, and how that impacts tyre wear and tyre loading, doesn't make sense. Okay, you've got to get scientific with this, and what they're saying doesn't do any of that, does it? When we've got the data saying how long these tyres can last, which tracks they've done this amount of mileage at. It just doesn't add up, and so therefore it's a narrative. We're being fed narrative, and it's been introduced for drama, and then it's been exploited. It's what it is. Now, I don't really care whether there will always be people that come to the channel that want to try to contest the information. I'm not interested in arguing. Okay, not interested in arguing. I'm just pointing out that this is the situation. We can go through the documents. We can see which tyre compounds are selected for which events. We can see how long these tyres actually will perform for. Now, yes, we can acknowledge that different tracks will cause different loading to the tyres. We can understand all that. But then there's a requirement for Pirelli to do something about it from every Grand Prix. They should be then putting through them tyres, through all of their rigorous testing, to find out how they hold up. And therefore, if they're finding that there's a problem, they need to go back to the drawing board and redesign their tyres. And when they had a problem in 2023 and 2024, why are we now still saying, oh, well, we've got a problem and we can't allow you to use the tyres for long enough to be able to comply with the actual regulations of the sport? We've got to introduce a new measure so that our tyres last. See, that's not good enough. All of these things are huge factors, and who's really exploring them? All you're going to get fed by mainstream media is the bullshit narrative where nobody's really going to even consider it. We get the bullshit narrative about the slow puncture, about the gravel. The gravel being the saviour that would prevent overtakes off the track or people exceeding track limits. But when you put gravel there, oh, now the tyres won't work. So it's not the saviour solution, is it? Anyway, I will be back. I will make some videos about the actual Grand Prix. Not that it's really worth it. We all know what it was all done for. Well, we know that they definitely would like to take it down to the last Grand Prix of the season. That's financially lucrative for them, and from what we've witnessed in this sport ever since the 2021 season, where they manufactured it for Max Verstappen, there's been an agenda to try and boost him up and portray him to the world as being the best thing we've ever seen. So obviously, trying to ensure that he's got career statistics that back that narrative up is clearly an agenda of theirs as well. So wouldn't surprise me if they intend for Max to win a record equaling 5th consecutive championship. But it's not valid even if he does, because ultimately 2021 was Lewis Hamilton's, and every championship since, well, the Red Bull entered the cost cap era of cars having breached, so they're illegal right from the outset of the formula, aren't they? Should have been disqualified. Should have been disqualified from the start of the budget cap was introduced in 2021, so they should have been disqualified from the 2021 season and also the 2022 season, because the overspend impacted the development of the 2022 car. And then the number of things that we've seen manipulated throughout this time is obscene. The number of driving infringements that have gone unpunished is obscene. And it's just the Max Verstappen show, isn't it? Anyway, that'll do on this one. I hope you followed. I hope you're realising that we are being fed bullshit narrative. It is bullshit contrivance. Many of you do. And we'll have a look at some of the events in the race over the course of the next few videos. What I'm going to do as well is I need to go through the Massa court case documents, because that's really important. We'll see what's being cooked up there too. Anyway, thank you for your time.